Hey guys, the other day I saw Queenie Bee in Battleground, and I had previously said in my last Battleground video against, I think I was up against Kenshin, that I would try and get some fights with her. She is someone that I've had trouble with recently, and um, I mean, recently, probably the past, I don't know, 3, 4 months, just really losing a lot to her whenever I see her in Battleground. But at least in the past few weeks, just every time I see her in Battleground, we're always on the same team. So this was a nice opportunity for me to get a few fights with her and see how things go. Turns out I'm still losing plenty to her, but that's okay. I think it's always good to have somebody who gives you a rough time, and it makes you really think about what your tune needs. I'm not really sure how to fix some of the issues I have against Queenie, but she's hitting pretty hard with the Odin. You know, my light and dark resistance isn't as high as it could be because I only carry 4 light and dark resistance crystals, but I think it's just so minimal how much, those last couple of crystals help, and I do like having the resistances spread out a bit. Um, and yeah, so here Queenie brings Incendiary Shot, which is not something I always see with the archers anymore. I was talking to Robin about what BG setup she brings, and she says she doesn't even always bring Incendiary Shot, and so that was an interesting point. Um, but here, Queenie sort of has a rotation with her runes, so she brings Heal and Guardian, and she uses Incendiary Shot. I am still dealing a good chunk of damage. That's probably helped out by my Will Crystals quite a bit. So even with the Dark Pet, still dealing a good chunk of damage. But she's just really hitting so hard. When I was looking at her stats, I honestly could not figure out why. It's not that I'm not hitting her hard, but relative to her health, she has quite a bit more, but look at that. I mean, that's huge. Knocking out like a million HP. Uh, there's not much I can do. I mean, I threw the Guardian rune. I was close to getting to the Heal rune, which might have been, tiny bit more useful, but, yeah. So, got knocked out there. And before these fights, I saw her lose to Thing One in BG, and so I was like, well, maybe today's the day that Queenie finally loses to me, and so I was sort of wondering about that, but later on I find out that Queenie had Frigga on at the time, which is still confusing to me because even if she switches Sils, I don't think that it's going to make it that much easier, and Thing One has a lot less BR than I do. And so I guess Thing was saying she has Freya, but I don't know if she used the Freya in the fight, and Queenie isn't protected against that. Not totally sure what happened there, but anyway, I was impressed with Thing to say the least. Um, so here, I ended up hanging back a little bit more than the first time around. I got the kid. But it's hard to figure out, a system. With archers, you always have to be a little careful because, even if they have lower attack stats, they always tend to hit really hard because of their crit bonuses. And so you have to be a little bit careful, especially with mages. We don't have great physical defense, and so we have to be a little bit cautious with archers. In recent history, I've never worried too much about archers in general, or not even in recent history, just like in the history of my time in Wartune. And I don't think that really has that much to do with archers not being a good class or a good PvP class, even at that. It's more just that the caliber of the archers in our crossover section, they tend not to be as big of cashers as the top mages or the top knights, and so it's never felt like, oh no, here comes an archer. But lately, I would say that there are maybe a few that really have started to make their way up. Queenie definitely being one of them. She is top. She's often in TOK Nightmare now, depending on her setup, so she's perfectly capable of having one of the top, probably 2 or 3 BRs in our crossover section. And then Lambeau has been having a good run in a lot of the crossover events, so he's definitely making his way up. From what I've heard, he's big trouble in class wars and stuff for a lot of the archers, and maybe some others. Kenshin is quite good stat wise. He just hasn't really made that push for the merge still. So yeah, I mean, a lot more tough competition out of the archers which I'm sure is not making Robin totally happy because I'm sure she wants to win Class Wars at some point. But that's really good to see because I think overall archers, you know, have sort of been, I guess the less competitive class out of my crossover section. That's definitely not the other the case in other time zones. It's just in ours. I mean, the class most likely to have some, you know, crazy amount of caching in it is the knights, and then followed by the mages. But even the mages are up and down. You know, we have Chili, we have Ray, we have Lala. I'm up there, but not, you know, quite at their probably not close to their VIP points. But in Solara, but they kind of, you know, come in waves depending on, you know, how active they're being. And so this time around, I mean, we got a third fight in. Usually I at least do two, and so I was like, you know what? Please, can we get in a third? I don't know if I don't think I actually said that, but I was thinking it to redeem myself a little. Oh, she went into this one a little low on HP, but I think the fight goes long enough that it's pretty safe to say that it wasn't a huge factor. Well, there, she actually gains a decent little chunk of health from that Devour Soul. Wow, I dodged a lot of that. I mean, it might just be an auto attack, but that was surprising. And then she crits like 150k through my Guardian rune. I don't know. Sometimes the numbers, and it's a little bit confusing to figure out what is happening with the numbers, because there's no indication that any of your like fate stuff has procced except for the deflections and things like that. So the numbers are a little bit harder to predict. Queenie sort of has one bad habit with some of her skills, which are her runes in her Incendiary Shot and her Guardian rune. It definitely feels like she's in a very like predictable or constant pattern with her runes and Incendiary Shot. So it'll feel like, oh, she's done an Incendiary Shot, now she has a Guardian rune up, now she has a heal up, and she sort of just does them in rotation as soon as she can use them, and so it's not very responsive to what I'm doing. So it just feels like she's sort of just using them whenever, instead of looking at, you know, when am I using my toughest skills. Here I do something dumb, which I do this all the time when I start to panic a little bit, which is I stun her, and I think the stun's gonna fail, and so I throw on the Guardian rune. But that's okay. No harm, no foul. Here she uses a Brutality rune? Is that what she has on? I can't see. She has too many buffs going, I can't even tell. Where's that Brutality coming from? Interesting. Doesn't deal much there. Again, I must have procced something, because I mean, we're at the 150% bonus. That should have hit me really, really hard. Yeah, and that hits me much harder. So it must be something fate related is my guess. Some chance to reduce damage by whatever. Oh, it might be cards. But I don't have those cards built up much, so I mean, that's really rare. But yeah, so here, like, why does she need that Guardian rune when I'm not in Sylph mode and not really dealing too much? But at least, I think she says, yeah, that I've got her this one. But of course you never really know. She did get to her heal rune, so really anything can go. But do have an advantage here. But yeah, just hitting super, super hard. And I think some of the other fights, you know, this one I think some things just ended up working out for me. But I think, you know, if we were to do 10 fights, at least battleground fights, I think Queenie wins like probably 7 or 8 of them would be my guess. You know, definitely more than 50%. Um, but yeah, that was fun, and I don't mind getting my ass kicked once in a while. So I really need to figure out what's going on there. You know, there's not much to get around. You know, archers hitting really hard. They do get really nice crit bonuses, so their damage does really hurt. But looking at these stats, I was really confused. Honestly, I just don't know where she got all that HP. I know Odins give a lot of HP, but there are lots of other players out there that have Odins and don't have insane HP like this. So like archers and mages with that much HP, I have no clue because I was looking at her gems, no real indication of how she has that much HP. And then, you know, so that's like knight HP. So I was a little confused there. I waited until reset and then took this still just to check again, and she still has a ton of HP, and her physical attack a little bit higher or whatever. So you know, her stats from before look so weird to me, but now that I look at them again, I mean, there's, you know, I don't know if she's doing something right before reset or whatever, but I mean, totally crazy. I should have looked at her stats while I was in BG, but yeah, just really rather curious set of stats she has. It's a very, very strange balance, I would say, to see from an archer. But yeah, I mean, overall, my stats are actually, I think, higher than hers. Defense, you know, my physical defense is a little lower than her magical defense, but overall, I think my defense is pretty good or comparable. More block. So really where she has me is the HP, and then you know, I have much, much more attack. But that didn't really seem super noticeable in the fight. So I don't know, but she does a very nice job, and so that was very fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care, and have a very good day.